Towards the beginning of the 20th century, Russian nationalism faded due to Russia's embarrassing loss in the Russo-Japanese War and their involvement in World War I. Many Russians attributed this to the poor leadership of Tsar Nicholas II. One of the most radical opponents of the autocracy was Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. He embraced the economic principles of Karl Marx, which came to be known as communism. Although Lenin was exiled to Siberia for 3 years, he later returned to St. Petersburg. Meanwhile, strikes began to break out on March 8th, or International Women's Day. Began as women demanding bread quickly evolved into a full-scale riot. The women were quickly joined by industrial strikers and deserting troops. On March 11th, Mikhail Rodzianko, chairman of the State Duma, or Russian Parliament, sent a telegram to the Tsar informing him of the seriousness of the situation. According to the Tsar's diary, he did not dignify this telegram with a response. Meanwhile, in Petrograd, or present-day St. Petersburg, demonstrators tore down everything related with Tsardom. On March 14th, the Tsar took a train back from an army base to Petrograd. On March 15th, the Duma suggested that he abdicate his throne. He, his family, and several of their more trusted advisors were placed under house arrest and eventually killed by the new provincial government. The abdication of the Tsar was called the February Revolution, and the new provincial government would not last long, for there was soon another revolution.
Petrograd, modern-day St. Petersburg, October 1917. Cold, wet and windy. The city faced repeated blackouts. Gangs of criminals roamed the darkness. Here, Lenin and the Bolshevik movement had decided it was time to crown the revolution.
There were certain things which everybody expected to be done, which were not done. Bolsheviks speeded up quite a lot of events, quite a lot of tendencies which were already in making in Russian history.
A deposed Tsar, poverty, unrest and an unpopular provisional government, headed by moderate Alexander Kerensky, all the right ingredients to seize power.
Lenin wanted to overthrow Kerensky's government before they could be legitimized in elections later on in that year. But the reality was, in Petrograd at that time, Kerensky's government didn't have much support at all.
The opposition was weak. 2 days earlier, the Bolsheviks in Estonia led a successful uprising. Now it was the capital, Petrograd's turn. Throughout the day, Lenin was in the streets and barracks directing forces. As the night closed in, the plan was activated.
At 9:45 in the evening, the signal was given. The Aurora battleship, then stationed just outside the Winter Palace, further down the river Neva, fired a blank shot, mobilizing the masses that had surrounded the palace to action. They raced across this colossal square outside the Winter Palace. This was the only part of the city not under Bolshevik control. They were armed and dangerous and looking for a fight. But the reality is far from the imagination of Sergei Eisenstein. The assault was pretty much led by a crack group of about 50 men or so. They faced little resistance. A bunch of Cossacks, cadets and a women's battalion.
They streamed through the opulent halls and corridors, looting and vandalizing. Then, the Aladdin's Cave, what's believed to have been the largest wine cellar in the world.
Meanwhile, on the other side of Petrograd, delegates had arrived here at the Smolny Institute, then the Senate. Imagine in this building, hot, sweaty Bolsheviks. Minority and opposition leaders were the first to take to the floor. Some of those wanted to backpedal the revolution that they'd started, but with an enormous roar, they were shouted down. Then Lenin showed up. Many in the Senate had never seen the man in the flesh before, and like a true political rock star, Trotsky describes how he grabbed the side of the lectern and began to speak.
He called a number of decrees, one for peace, one for the redistribution of land to the people. Power was then handed over to the Second All-Russian Congress of Soviets. The revolution was ratified. Its impact would be far-reaching.
We cannot imagine the emergence of the welfare state in the West had it not been for existence of Soviet Union, which was the result of the October Revolution.
Back at the Winter Palace, the crowning jewel of the Russian Empire had fallen to the people.
The capital was theirs. But what about the country?
Although it is not necessarily an American history event, the Russian Revolution of 1917 has had a profound impact on the rest of the 20th century. Some of the more far-reaching events that were affected by the Russian Revolution include World War II, in which Russia played a pivotal role. The Soviet Union also opposed U.S. forces in both the Vietnam and Korea Wars. Most importantly of all, the Russian Revolution created the United Socialist Soviet Republics, or USSR, which became an economic superpower and came into conflict with America. The name of this conflict was the Cold War, and it lasted from 1922 to 1991, when the Soviet Union was dissolved. A large portion of the tension in the Cold War was that both the United States of America and the USSR possessed nuclear weapons. While the Cold War never erupted into nuclear violence, it did lead to many breakthroughs. Many scientific, diplomatic, and military innovations were made during this Cold War period. One of the most notable and famous was the space race, as the US and USSR both successfully sent aircraft into outer space.